right, welcome to Live Breathe Film, episode 73. Thank you for joining us. We have a very special Better Call Saul episode for you today, as this tremendous show and the Breaking Bad universe that it's part of has now come to a close. For this special episode, you have, as usual, Doug and Murph. Corey is not joining us today since he is 63 episodes behind Better Call Saul.
But very accurate.
Yeah, it might be 62. I think he might have watched the series premiere. But we also have JP returning, one of our original hosts, along with Doug's law school buddy, Henry. So we have two resident law experts on the podcast today, not just the usual one. Half and half, maybe. All right.
I've never said I'm an expert.
Yeah.
Fair. But today we're going to skip our usual format and dive right into talking all about Better Call Saul. We'll break down the series finale, its final season as a whole, and the entire show. If you haven't watched yet, or if you haven't watched the finale or any of Better Call Saul, now would be the time to tune out, since we're going to spoil the shit out of it. But let's get right into it and talk Better Call Saul, guys. So last night, the series finale aired. The episode was titled Saul Gone. Doug, would you like to, since you're the most up-to-date on the episode as far as writing a very detailed breakdown of the episode, want to set us up here?
Yeah, I mean, so I would say this Saul Gone episode picks up pretty much where the episode before Waterworks left off, which is Marianne, also known as Carol Burnett, discovers through an internet search program, Ask Jeeves, that which I thought that was a fun reference, but were people still using Ask Jeeves at that time? I don't
What year does this show take place in?
2010 is all black and white.
Okay, because I was like, who the fuck uses a burner phone anymore, too? Like, I don't. Can you go into a store and buy like a phone in a plastic bin?
I feel like you still
go to a Sprint store or a T-Mobile store.
It confused the heck out of me. I guess 2010 was really like a completely different time.
Yeah, it feels like even more dated and period than I guess 2010, but maybe that's what 2010 was like, and I've just forgotten.
Maybe in Omaha, Nebraska, it's like that too. It could be one of those types of deals.
That's true. Maybe Ask Jeeves is really popular in Omaha, Nebraska.
Because Jeffy was wearing a very 1990s sweater when he first meets him.
That big one that he was wearing?
Yeah, that's straight 1994 or something like that.
I mean, 2010, not even all of us probably had smartphones, or maybe they did, but they didn't have iPhones.
I didn't have a smartphone.
Yeah, so
I probably had like a Razor or something.
It really was a different era.
Doug, what did you have back then? Because we were living together. I mean, I don't think you were smartphone yet.
No, I was always like, Henry, can you look up?
Yeah, no, you always had like a paperweight for a phone. Exactly.
We need answers to debates we're having. Can you research this for us?
Seriously.
And you never thought it would be so convenient to have one of your own.
That's silly. He's got his own personal computer walking next to him.
That's true. But anyway, I guess getting back on topic, so Ask Jeeves out Saul to Marianne. Marianne finds out that Gene, I forget his last name, but Takovic is basically the alias of a Saul Goodman who's wanted by the DEA in connection with all the Breaking Bad stuff. And so she uses her Life Alert to call somebody at Life Alert to have them call the police. And Saul takes off out of the house and basically books it. And that's how Waterworks ends. And so we pick up almost immediately from that point in time where he's fleeing the house. And what I thought was going to be a protracted escape turned out to not be very protracted because he gets caught pretty quickly.
Seriously.
Like, within the first 5 minutes of the show, he's like, he's caught.
Did we like that? I mean, did you guys like that, or did you want it to be a little bit of a longer chase? I mean, I always thought we were going to end up where we did, where he'd be in a courtroom again. But like, I mean, that quickly, and then the rest of the show is just basically like this full on just him negotiating, just going into full Saul mode when he needs to get, to save his skin? I mean, or would you have liked to have seen more of more of a pursuit?
I wanted more of a pursuit, I think.
I think that's not really what. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Murph.
I was just going to say, I kind of liked him getting caught quickly and then dealing with all the drama that comes with him getting caught. The only thing, what I kind of thought was going to happen was that he was going to call Ed the disappearer again and then find out, like, Ed passed away or something and be like, fuck. Like, I called him 2 months ago and I said, I don't need to, like, forget it. I'll figure this out myself.
Shot.
And I failed so poorly. But no, I was cool with, like, the cops finding him pretty quickly.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought him having like a protracted, like heart pounding getaway would probably have been more Breaking Bad style. Whereas I think this episode kind of got back to the roots of what I think Better Call Saul is, which is more of like a character study, more so than like an action drama. So I thought it made sense. I did think it was a little misleading that. Vince Gilligan, I think, was saying that it was going to be like a heart-pounding finale.
Yeah.
It wasn't very.
I agree with that.
And I wouldn't have described it that way because I was expecting a lot of action based on the way they were describing this last episode.
More heartstrings than heart pounding.
Yeah, but
right.
Yeah. It's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
So. Am I doing the whole episode?
I didn't know if you were done.
If you want. All right, we can go to him getting caught, or maybe let's talk about what, like, kind of bookends or is the theme of the entire episode, which is regrets, and talk about the flashbacks, because that actually kicked off the episode.
You're right.
Which was somewhat surprising that we got a flashback to the Bagman, Bad Time Road type era of the show. Was Bad Time Road? Was that the name of that one episode?
Bad Choice.
Bad Choice Road. Thank you. But yeah, we got a flashback to that. It's kind of similar to how El Camino kicked off with a Mike flashback with him and Jesse. But in this flashback, Saul brings up, or Jimmy at the time, brings up the idea of a time machine, and if you had a time machine, what would you do? Mike talks about how he would go back, ultimately decides to go back to when he made his accepted his first bribe, which kind of set him down that bad choice road. And then Saul just talks about how he would go back to when Warren Buffett started Berkshire Hathaway and get rich, basically. So not really taking the question seriously.
Yeah.
Very Back to the Future Part 2 vibes. Just going back, wanted to set it up straight. I mean, I like that because it kind of just showed you where Saul's head was at all times. It was just always about money and looking out for himself. But I think he kind of developed into that because, he's just kind of beaten down his whole life. No one really gave him any respect. He never got it from his brother. He never got it from anybody else. So I think at some point he just went to self-preservation mode. He was like, I'm just going to watch out for myself at any cost.
Yeah. I was going to say, I mean, maybe it's not so much him not taking it seriously, but really showing that that's all he is serious about, is just money and personal possessions and things like that. It just has become him.
And it kind of also goes to how he will, like, compartmentalize everything and just do whatever it takes not to talk about how, like, the things that have affected him. So, I mean, later on in the show, once Kim leaves him, that's when he turns into Saul Goodman versus, like, accepting what actually happened. And similar to earlier in the show when he's in the court and having to talk his way into becoming a lawyer again to what does he need?
His bar license back.
He needs his bar license back, and he just sort of fakes all the emotions about Chuck versus actually dealing with the fact that he was very much responsible for Chuck's suicide.
Yeah, I took it a little bit differently than you guys, and it's probably because I missed it, but I kind of thought like it was all like he actually, I think we find out, and we'll get to it when we talk about this, but I think we find out what his regret and what if he had a time machine where he'd go back to. And I think he knew, I kind of took it as he knew like that was his regret the whole time, but he's been putting up kind of this facade of Saul, because I guess to me I always saw like cracks in the veneer of the Saul Goodman, specifically when he's throwing the tennis ball or racquetball, when Kim goes to deliver the court papers, and you could tell like he was really bothered by the fact that Kim was divorcing him legally, but then he kind of just puts on an act when she's there. And kind of hides how he really feels about the situation.
Exactly. Yeah, he turns into his character again.
Yeah, he puts on this character, but in the deep down, he's still Jimmy.
I mean, it truly was a mask that he wore. It just was a mask that he wore to just like hide all types of feelings and any type of personal connection to anybody. That's what Saul Goodman was. Because like I remember, right before this last 6 started, they asked Peter Gould like about what this is going to show, and he's like, well, you're going to find out why, like there's a reason why Saul Goodman is the way he is, and you're going to ask yourself, what is it that he has, what is it that makes him want to be Saul Goodman? I think you really just hiding all of his feelings.
Yeah, and I do think there were times where he just got lost in the Saul Goodman character, and I mean he definitely started to become a little bit like Saul, but I don't know, it was interesting that you would see glimpses of Jimmy. At least I did. I don't know if that's because I wanted to see it, but it felt like they were like Bob Odenkirk's performance. He was showing a little bit of Jimmy at certain times.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I found that like kind of at the end, he sort of slips back into being Saul then again. So like when he's on that bus at the end of you can tell he kind of likes it. And then I would imagine that that's kind of how he lives the rest of his life.
I feel like in prison, I mean, you can just kind of, if that's what you're popular for, you think you just kind of go with it. At that point,
so
this is working for me.
But he had that smirk. When they were all starting to chant, he went from like not wanting to be it to like, it's kind of me.
He's got his.
Did we like the chant? Did we like the chanter? I feel like it was little weird. Like the beat could have been better.
It was a little on the nose.
But yeah, like once he's in prison, I mean, he has like his 3 faces. I mean, he's got a little bit of Gene when he's cooking or when he's baking the bread. He's got Jimmy when his visitors come that actually know him as Jimmy McGill, and then he's Saul to all the prisoners, like the folk hero who would help any one of them out if they weren't in jail, and who has quite the reputation with Walter White.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the end of Mike Armentrout on the show. So it's nice to get one last scene with Jonathan Banks. Shall we move on to the next flashback scene?
Yeah, it's a big one.
It's a monster scene. And it was, in my opinion, the best of the Walt Jesse flashbacks that we've gotten on Better Call Saul. But yeah, it's Walt and Saul around the Granite State post-Ozymandias era of Breaking Bad, where they're both in Ed the Disappearer's, I guess, basement of where he works before they move on to their new worlds in the Northeast and in Omaha, Nebraska. But in here, again, Saul poses his question about regrets. We get a completely different type of response from Walt as we do from Mike, where he first kind of just attacks the idea of the question about how time travel is absolutely ridiculous, just getting into full-on asshole Walter White mode, before eventually saying that what he regrets is the fact that he quit the Gray Matter company, or feels like he got pushed out of the company, despite the fact that he's done a million more horrible things that he should be regretting by that point in time. And at this point, Saul talks about how, like a Slip and Jimmy-esque moment in his life where he fell down and hurt his knee. So what did you guys think about the whole return of Heisenberg? Not so much the goofy Walter White that was in the prior episode, or 2 episodes prior, but
I forgot how irritating
was. Yeah,
I forgot how irritating Walter White was. Like,
He's
so
a piece of shit.
fucking irritating.
I thought the same thing. I was like, they almost made him cartoonish in that scene a little bit with like the thing going on with the water heater.
Yeah.
And I was like, you've got so much on your plate right now, and you're worried about warm water. Like, I love the dialogue, but he's very irritating.
Yeah.
After the episode ended, I was thinking like, Doug still thought Walt was the hero at this point in time.
Yeah.
It's still one more episode.
Yeah, like seeing him like I guess outside of the Breaking Bad context, I was kind of like, yeah, Walt's kind of an asshole. Like he's just not like when you see him and like contrast him to like Saul, like he's so much worse than Saul Goodman ever was, and so it's kind of seeing him again. I was just like, yeah, this guy's irredeemable. Like there was no road for this guy. He's such a jerk. I mean, to your point, Murph, like he still only cared about the fact, like he's still like looking at himself and like how he got screwed instead of how he like turned everybody's life upside down and got people killed and all of the shit that he's done. He doesn't regret and like any of that at all. Or that's not how at least he would use his time machine.
He's still not willing to admit it. I mean, it's a year, another 6 months before he finally admits to Skyler that he did it all for himself. Did any of you guys catch the reference to the watch? I had forgotten the importance of the watch that Walt was wearing. Is that the one that
Jesse gave him?
Yes. So I don't know if you were supposed to be thinking maybe his regret had to do with like the way he completely like fucked over Jesse, or maybe like how he just gave him away to the Nazis like a day prior. But yeah, I was like, why does this watch feel like it's so familiar? And then it wasn't until after that I put the two and two together.
Yeah, I didn't catch that at all. No, I'll have to go back and see it because I didn't even realize that was Jesse's watch.
Yeah, because they had the ticks going like so loud and like focusing on it. I'm like, why does this seem so familiar? But I can't put my finger on it.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was on point that Walt would attack the theory of time travel and be like, this is nonsense. Like, I thought that was completely in character for Walt. Yeah, I mean, it felt like Walter White the most. I think I agree with that. I preferred both Jesse and Walt by themselves than I did when they were together, which is weird because their whole thing is, you know, seeing them together I thought would be a bigger highlight than seeing them apart, but they had more time to kind of sink into their roles, I guess, individually.
It must have been just how Breaking Bad was, and it's been a while since I've gone back and watched it, but Jesse also was very cartoonish when he was talking to Kim.
Yeah.
It's just like I forgot about all the yos that just get fucking inserted into every sentence, and it's so goofy. And even like the scene in the trailer too, just every other word is yo, and like I feel like no one ever actually spoke like that in real life. Maybe a couple people did, but it's just so goofy. He was always such a goofy character. I've never been a fan of Jesse.
I feel like you're exactly right about that, but I guess we have to remember like that scene where they're in the trailer in the desert, and then the scene with Kim. Those are all like, oh wait, like Breaking Bad season 1, season 2, when Jesse was really laying it on thick with that type of talk, and it was. I do agree with you on that. I like the Walt solo scene more than I like the Jesse solo scene, though. I just felt like it had a little more. It was a little more powerful than the one. Although that scene with Kim seemed more. It was obviously having more to do with Kim and just her dealing with the divorce and everything else. And I did like her line at the end of that scene, which was good.
Mm-hmm. I mean, she's just wonderful.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. That was a great line by Kim, and I would totally agree that the scene with Walt just had a lot more significance and hit harder with the theme of the episode and everything like that.
Yeah.
But I think the episode or the flashback with Jesse and Kim, it's supposed to take place like a decent amount of time before Breaking Bad, which if that's the case, Aaron Paul is, I guess, supposed to be playing a high school student.
He looked like shit.
Who's probably in Walter White's class at that point. So
Because
it's kind of funny that he's 40 plus years old playing that.
Right, yeah, like one of the original drug dealers was the guy that was going into
right
Saul's office. Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, it's been done before, right? 40-year-olds playing high school students.
It's also been done more believably, but
that's why they kept him in darkness and a beanie, like the
entire they were like, "Don't worry, we put a beanie on him; it won't matter." I'm like, I don't think the beanie's the problem.
Nah, his voice was even so off.
I don't think you guys understand how beanies work.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not a form of de-aging technology.
Yeah.
At least they didn't give him like a moppy Justin Bieber cut hair like they do when they try and make people look younger. They give him like the swoop hair across the side, and it's messier because they're like, they're younger, but don't pay attention to all the wrinkles on their face.
Yeah,
they got that hip haircut.
Well, like, it's interesting too. Oh, go ahead, Doug. Sorry.
I was just gonna. It reminded me of Chuck when they de-aged Chuck and they gave him like the dyed hair. He still looks super old, but they're like, no, Chuck's young now.
Is that when he goes to bail him out?
Just go with it.
I don't know. Was that when he goes to bail him out?
Yeah,
I just remember.
There's like a scene in season 1 where they do a flashback to when Jimmy gives that guy the Chicago sunroof, where he like takes a shit in the guy's sunroof who was cheating on his wife with, and Chuck bails him out, and they both have like these horrible toupees on to like make them look young. Like Jimmy has hair down to like here, and it's just. And I definitely can tell it was like season 1. Like the budget's tight. We've just got to make this work. But yeah, Chuck still looked old to me too. I agree.
Yeah.
And then, what did you take from Saul's like regret from that one? Did you think it was again just like him not wanting to face the things he actually did regret? Just saying something kind of bullshit because I mean Walt's was kind of ridiculous.
I think he's just always hiding. Like he just won't ever reveal himself to or his real thoughts or feelings. He's just always wearing that mask. I feel like, and even Walt says it to him, and then he's like, "Oh, so you've always been like this."
He was like, I got such Chuck vibes.
Yeah, I know. That's funny you mentioned that because I read something today. Odenkirk did an interview and he equated Walt in that scene to Chuck. That like Saul is having this moment where he's like, "God, how the hell do I always get linked up with guys like this who are like smarter than me, treat me like shit, talk down to me?" Like he's just used to it.
Yeah, it's funny between that and then all the stuff he went through with the Salamancas that he'd still try to go in the drug trade again and get it right this time. Like he just has a really bad time with following the same patterns and shittier results even happening the second time. And then the last flashback, we got exit Walter White, Bryan Cranston, sayonara. We have the return of Michael McKean as Chuck McGill. This was kind of cool because it was like a strictly Better Call Saul related flashback. I guess this one would have taken place early in the show or maybe before the show. But this was an interesting scene because it seemed like they were kind of like they could have bonded if Jimmy just like kind of put in a little more effort, and maybe they could have formed some sort of a connection. Like in this, Chuck's actually interested about Jimmy's like clients and things like that, like what he's up to at work. Where on Better Call Saul, he just was always just like, "You're a bad guy. You shouldn't be a lawyer," and like just pushing him down all the time. So I thought this was an interesting look back at their relationship.
Yeah, I agree. I think it did seem like it took place maybe even before we get to see a glimpse into Better Call Saul. Because Chuck's at the point where he has his condition where like you can see like the electrical cords are cut out and everything, and Jimmy's making a delivery. And so, yeah, it was interesting. It was definitely interesting to see this kind of warmth between the characters that didn't seem to be there, that maybe implied that, I don't know if Chuck was reaching out the olive branch or if they just had a closer relationship. I guess it seemed like to me that Chuck was probably trying to reach out the olive branch and have a connection with his brother. And I think at that point, Jimmy was just, the damage had been done to their relationship, and Jimmy wasn't willing to accept that and move forward with Chuck. And I guess that's. I mean, we don't know. I guess whether or not that would have played out differently if Jimmy sat down and had a conversation with Chuck, and that their brothership would have grown closer. I'm guessing probably not, because Chuck was such an asshole to Jimmy.
He was insufferable.
Yeah.
How good are they though together in scenes?
They're so good. Yeah. I was so happy to see Chuck come back because
it's awesome.
I really enjoyed their relationship, and it was cool to see. It was cool to kind of go back to that season 1 time frame, because it's been a long time since we've been there.
Sorry. Go
ahead.
No, I took that scene just a little differently. I loved it, but I thought it was just like a microcosm of the relationship. I think in that moment, Jimmy's doing everything out of a sense of duty because it's his brother. And I think he's still holding on to the fact that Chuck didn't get him a job at HHM when he passed the bar, or that he didn't get it, and he knows he could have helped his brother out. Because then he tells me that, oh, which client do you want to hear about now? And then he rattles off all these like horrible cases he has and stuff. And I think Chuck is one of those guys too. It could be taken as an olive branch, but I also think Chuck likes to keep him at a distance. And I think he likes seeing him on his ass, to be honest, deep down. He would never say it to his face, but
he was always resentful about how Jimmy was so personable, how their mom clearly liked him more, like wanting him to be by her side when she died. Meanwhile, Chuck's like, what the fuck? Like, I'm here. So yeah, there was definitely jealousy on his side, or just that everything came easier for Jimmy, and that he could take like the easy way out and still like kind of get ahead in his own way.
And I also like when Jimmy says to him, he's like, well, I'm doing this for you because you're my brother. You do the same for me. And then the camera pans to Michael.
Yeah.
Like, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe I would have. I don't know, though.
No.
Like, you don't really know me that well.
Yeah.
And it's just so cool. We've probably talked about this before, or maybe we talked about it 7 years ago when the show started. But the fact that, like, it's 2 comedic actors just absolutely crushing it together in dramatic roles.
Yeah.
I always thought that was such a cool thing about the show, that they put so much kind of faith in comedians. Because, I mean, everyone says comedy's harder than drama. You don't see many dramatic actors go into comedy after the fact.
Nope.
But these 2 absolutely crush it in their roles. And then, yeah, at the end of the scene, you see the time machine book, the, what is that, H.G. Wells, which kind of goes into all the conversations that he has later on. But yeah, that's it for the flashbacks. Who wants to get in? Oh,
I guess just real quick on the H.G. Wells. I mean, that's just was to drive home. I mean, that's the rat and Departed, right? That's to drive home the fact that this is the moment that Jimmy wishes he could go back to. That's how I took it, at least.
I
like,
took it
that's his,
that as well.
This was the moment that, like, if he had a time machine, if he was being real, he'd go back and change and have a relationship with Chuck.
You're saying the rat and the Departed meant something?
This is the on the nose, like, hey guys, this is the.
In case you've been asleep for 50 minutes, this is what we were talking about.
Yeah, this is the moment that Jimmy would have gone back to if he really answered that question truthfully. So, thought it was cool, and it seems like everyone took it that way. So it looks like the rat was seen for what it was supposed to be.
But yeah, that was all it for flashbacks. From then on, you're dealing with, or we'll be talking about, everything that takes place after Gene gets arrested and he essentially becomes Saul again for a while. I mean, throughout this episode, he goes back and forth between all his different personas. But who wants to cover the period of time after Saul gets arrested and kind of go into how that went? JP, you want to talk a little bit about
me
this?
To remember things, man.
Remember what you watched a few hours ago?
I don't, and that's the problem. I have feelings, but no memories. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it almost seemed like he was going to just sort of give up at the end of it all, and then obviously he finds a way to just weasel his way into a completely reduced sentence. I like that they brought Marie back.
I love that.
That was great.
Yeah, that was a nice touch to bring Marie back for the sentencing hearing.
Yeah,
also
like, yeah,
you also got
justice for Hank, but
you also got
Gomez's wife.
Yeah.
I don't think we've seen her, right? I tried to IMDb it to be like, did they bring somebody back?
They've talked about her, but you've never seen her.
So they could
they really buried the lead with that, talking about Walt and Jesse appearing in the show. They didn't even mention
Yeah, and it's pretty amazing that he gets that sentence down to what it was 7.5 years.
Yeah, it originally started. I think it was like 100.
It was
crazy. Life plus 196, right?
It was something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they were like, you know what? We're just gonna give you 30. I think is where they decided to offer it to him, and then he got it down to 7.5 plus the Madoff prison cell.
He was so close to getting his ice cream too.
So close to that Bluebell.
It went after the Bluebell there too. Aggressive.
Yeah, I mean you got to watch out for that. You probably get listeria, but
and he brought back
Bill Oakley
as his advisory council.
Why would he take that? Like they weren't friends for like the last.
Well, he sold it. He sold it as like you can get a name for yourself. Because
why is he even picking that?
That'd be a big case.
He would have just hung up on him. I feel like the way they left everything. He was like once they found out or suspected that he was a mob lawyer, they wanted nothing to do with him. They would barely even talk to him. But he
also, how's he getting paid? Because I know the government seized all that money and those diamonds that they had on.
Well, I think Saul was convincing him to do it for nothing. He was just having him do it just for the recognition. Yeah, just for the exposure.
You're going to be in like national news because he's such a big deal.
Yeah, because it seemed like Oakley's firm, even though he made it to the bench, where Saul's picture used to be, it seemed like he was answering his own phone for the firm and everything.
You see what he was driving too? He was driving a station wagon from like 1986. So
yeah, so he's pretty small time. So I guess Saul figured, this could be a carrot to throw out there.
What do you think Saul gave up to get roughly 100 or probably 265 days or 65 years off of his? What is left to give up? Walt's dead.
Like he was just a great fucking actor, and he knew like he could game the system.
Yeah, I love that.
Maybe routing numbers. I mean, he did all the money laundering stuff like that. There's probably all these different funds and stuff that they couldn't touch.
True.
I agree. I was like, he doesn't know where Howard's buried.
Nope.
Okay, he wasn't really part of anything else.
Everyone's dead, right? Gus is dead.
Yeah.
Walt's dead. Jesse's gone.
Mike's dead.
All
the Salamancas are dead.
Yep. I was trying to really think, is there anyone left? So the Nazis are all dead.
Yep.
They made it seem like he didn't give anything up, though, that he just showed the U.S. attorney that, I can say that Walt forced me to do this, and I can do it believably.
Yeah, you might lose.
And so, you might lose and lose your winning streak. Which this guy...
I guess he would argue that he had to do all those things under duress.
That's what he was...
Like, they just wiped away a bunch of his accounts that are like, okay, well, that would get the duress defense. That would. I don't know.
Did any of you get vibes of when Walt and Skyler filmed that video for Hank, like saying that Hank was forcing him to do the entire thing?
I did.
Do you think Saul gave Walt that idea back on Breaking Bad?
Ooh. It sounds like a Slippin' Jimmy thing to do.
Right?
Would be.
Why did he... What? I was kind of confused as to why. Why do you think he brought Marie even, into... There was no reason to bring her into the room other than to, fuck with her.
Yeah. It was
a little flex. I think it was a flex.
Yeah. I guess because he can show that he can do it in front of someone that was actually affected by all of this. And with her having her sob story, and he can just turn it off, turn it on. But that was pretty fucked up.
Oh yeah, it was super fucked up that he did that.
I thought he was going to be remorseful, but I'm
so did
done.
I. And then he's like, "I'm a victim too," and I'm like, "Holy shit!" God, this guy's a prick.
Yeah.
And then he just turns it off too.
And then he's basically like, "See, like,
just need one jury member to believe this, and you guys are fucked."
Yeah,
you got all that
in a lot of directions.
Yeah, you have all that scumbag stuff, but he still did call the Cinnabon and change the schedules around.
The same thing.
There you
That
go.
that was very nice of him.
That was his first call too.
I was like, wow, Gene, what a good guy.
Yeah, Gene was a very good guy.
That's before because he has that breakdown in that cell that they have him in. He's like, oh man, I fucked up. Like, what am I doing? And then he sees that someone carved into the wall, like, give me my
lawyer
attorney.
will ream you or something.
Yeah, something about my lawyer, and he snaps into like Saul mode.
That reminded me of Granite State at the end when Walt's in the bar after he's made the call to Walt Jr. and then he calls the cops and basically says where he is. And then he gets the idea when he sees the gray matter people on TV. Yeah. He's like, now I know what I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. Okay, I figured it out.
Yeah, when they get backed up against the wall, they find a way to get out of it. I guess that's a pretty big...
yeah, it's a consistent thing with this shit. Both shows.
I always saw that, though. I was always of the mindset, like, Saul seems to be able to weasel his way out of stuff, that if he ever got caught, that he would find a way. He would find an angle somehow in all of this to get himself out or do something to get his way. So I'm glad they showed at least that he could find an angle and he was able to exploit that to get what he wanted. Because that always felt like that's something that character could do if he got arrested.
Yeah, or he's at least going to try.
That prison, he made it sound like it was better than his life in Omaha. He should have just went there to begin with. Got his 7.5 years done with, and boom. Go back to living a normal life.
It's got a golf program. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
Golf and ice cream.
Yeah.
Wing D's got a great view, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Dude. Just imagine being stuck in Omaha, Nebraska, and the one thing that brings you down is Carol fucking Burnett. Like, what?
He overplayed his hand, man. He got greedy there. I don't know what. I think Gene... well, I'm sure we'll get to it later, but I'm sure he, like, broke a fuse or something. But
yeah.
He's almost wanting to get caught.
And he surrounded himself with idiots like Jeffy.
Yeah.
Once he had that phone call with Kim, it was basically like, fuck it. I'm doing, like, whatever like I want to do. Like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
And it led to his downfall very, very quickly.
Oh, yeah.
Side question. Did we like new Jeff?
No.
As opposed to old Jeff?
I didn't like new Jeff.
I eventually warmed up to him because he was, like, basically just because of the scene where he crashes into the cop car. It was just fucking hilarious.
That was so obviously coming, like,
but
right off the bat when they started talking about tacos, like, he's going to crash into the car because he's an idiot.
Those two Jeffs couldn't have been any different.
Oh, God, no.
The first one comes across as, like, fucking intimidating. Like, I'm going to, like, use you and, like, threaten you to do, like, basically whatever I want you to do. And then new Jeff is the biggest bitch in the world.
He's like a baby-faced idiot.
Yeah.
He's just like... and then the guy with the dog was just like...
Oh, buddy, yeah.
The most silent human being on Earth.
Yeah, I barely even remember. That character was kind of pointless. The brother or whatever the hell he was.
Yeah, I mean, it was more believable than Jeff.
That was Jeff's Jesse. That was Jeff's Jesse Pinkman.
Yeah. I think Jeff was the Jesse Pinkman in that relationship. He's like, he was the liability. The other guy just got fired and just walked off and did nothing. He didn't call the cops. He didn't do anything weird.
Yeah,
it would have been more believable if he was just the one that ratted them out instead of Carol Burnett, who like randomly Googles Better Call Saul.
Conman, Albuquerque, and Ask Jeeves figured it out.
I figured out what Saul gave up to the police. He gave up Jeffy.
Oh, yeah.
Jeffy. Squad car's on the way to the house, right? They're like, you're not going to believe what this guy made me do.
Yeah, Jeffy and Carol Burnett were the real masterminds.
That would be hilarious if he pinned it all on Jeffy.
He had me rob a department store.
Yeah, exactly.
Master criminal.
Oh man, that whole plan was pretty awesome. I liked watching that and seeing what was it, Gary or whatever his name was from Parks and Rec eating a Cinnabon while they were doing all that. Jerry. Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, it was fun, those episodes. I guess we'll talk about that more, but
one last thing in regards to the scene where he's making the deal. You mentioned Marie being back and everything like that. I think she was the cameo I was most happy about in the entire episode because I didn't think she got a real solid ending on Breaking Bad. It was kind of similar to Jesse. He kind of got the short end of the stick in comparison to Walt, and among all the family members, she got like the least of an ending. Mm-hmm. So I was happy that it kind of you really got to see her emotions in regards to Hank dying and it being after the fact and everything like that. And you ultimately saw her in the end, spoiler alert, in an episode of All Spoilers, but you get to see some form of justice for after everything that went down.
Yeah, Marie's side movie when?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Marie El Camino.
El Camino 2, the Marie story.
They're minerals, Marie.
Her klepto habit kicks back up again, and she starts stealing.
He just goes straight down and going to open houses, stealing stuff.
I can't remember, but was she wearing purple last night?
Well, I can't tell. It's black and white.
Good point. Well, yeah, that's true. Good point.
It was dark
because
could have been dark purple.
In Felina, the last episode of Breaking Bad, she wasn't wearing purple. It was like pretty wild because the entire rest of the show she was. So I was wondering if 2 months later she's reverted back to her old
purple wearing self
and dress wear.
It's so crazy that it was only 2 months.
Yeah, it's weird. I do feel that way. Like the time jumps, and then the fact that Breaking Bad over all those seasons literally was only 2 years of time. Yeah, it's just wild to me too.
Yeah, and the majority of it was just like the first year, and then like in the last season, then they do that long montage that actually covers a lot of time, and then gets caught 6 months later in the end of Breaking Bad.
It's crazy.
All right. So then where do we want to get to now?
Well, the other big thing that we didn't talk about with this scene is that we also find out with the infamous Bluebell ice cream sweetener, which is pretty on the nose now that I think about it.
Is it a good flavor?
It was mint chocolate chip. Yeah.
Did he say this flavor?
Yeah, he did say
mint chocolate chip.
Mint chocolate chip. It's a great flavor.
I've never had it.
You've never had mint chocolate chip ice cream at all?
No, not my thing. I'm a Dutch chocolate guy. I love Bluebell, but it's Dutch chocolate all the way.
Bluebell mint chocolate chip sales are going to skyrocket after this episode. They got to do a promo like Cinnabon just did yesterday for Better Call Saul.
Did they
really? Did they?
They did a like a buy one get one. If you put in a Better Call Saul related code on like the app, and it only applied yesterday, I believe.
Wow. So I was watching. Did any of you guys watch the After Saul for the episode, the Waterworks episode, where they do like the actors are on there and they do kind of like a discussion of the episode?
Yeah, Talking Saul.
Yeah, Talking Saul. Did any of you guys watch that?
Yeah, I watched most of it.
Okay, did you guys see the part where Vince Gilligan's talking about how like they didn't get paid for like any of the brands that they had in, like the Miracle Whip, the I forgot the brand name of the mayo, like Cinnabon, Duke's Mayo. Yeah, Vince is like, I'm such an idiot. We should have like gotten paid for these appearances. So he's like, we didn't get paid for any of these. He's like, we just threw it in the episode.
It's because he's sitting at home laying on his cube of money like in Breaking Bad. He doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, it was funny. It was also funny too because they were talking mainly about the mayo, the Dutch's mayo. And he was like, could have gotten some mayo out of the deal.
I still love the fact that it was just a little like passing mention about Cinnabon on Breaking Bad, and they actually had him work there on Better Call Saul, and it'd be part of the show for 6 seasons.
it became like a huge part of the show too, especially towards the end.
Yeah.
There was a whole Cinnabon episode.
Exactly.
Just constantly making Cinnabons. Oof.
But what I was going to say is we do find out on that Bluebell sweetener that's Saul's first time finding out that Kim confessed to the Howard Hamlin crime.
Yeah.
Which was interesting.
Changes the game for Jimmy.
Changed the game for him because it seemed like he never expected that Kim would actually do anything. And I was curious, like that seems like such a small. I guess it's just like a power play thing because he was willing to give that up for just like the Bluebell ice cream.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be like, all right, we're going to get more years shaved off because that's kind of a big deal, like the type of information he was going to be giving. Like,
Yeah,
Skylar got rid of everything just by revealing where Hank and Gomez were, and she was very much a part of Walt's crimes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I guess he didn't have the body. He didn't know where the body was.
True.
So,
Yeah, no proof.
so Doug, what do you think his thought process was when he hears that? Because like I took it as like he was kind of like because they throw you off. They think he's gonna like. I thought he was gonna throw Kim under the bus a little bit more, maybe blame everything on the Howard stuff on her. But I guess after watching the episode, that was him kind of be like, well, geez, if she's gonna come clean and own up to her stuff, I feel like I need to too. I mean, I think it was just kind of like more like I think that just shows how much he loved her. That he was like, man, if she's willing to do this, I definitely need to be able to.
I didn't think he was there yet. I think that planted the seed for what comes next, where he starts worrying about what's going to happen to Kim. But I don't think he's at a place yet. At least I didn't take it as he was at a place yet where he was willing to come clean on any of it. Because I think he would have said something. I think he was more. I think it just planted the seed of like, oh shit, what's going to happen to Kim?
I don't think he got the idea for Kim getting her to the courtroom until he's on the plane and gives up that information. Yeah. I think he's mostly in shock when he realizes that Kim confessed, and probably also like, I'm the reason she confessed. I just had that phone call with her like a month ago where I told her to confess. But yeah, I think he's still winging his plan, like, or making pivots to it, all the way up to the point where he's in the courtroom.
Yeah, I agree with that. So, I mean, the next place we are is on the plane, which presumably he's going his golf program, club. Well, no, I guess he has to go to New Mexico,
Albuquerque.
right?
Gotta go since, yeah.
He's got to go to New
Federal prisoners fly commercial.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
On an airline I've never heard of before.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but I guess, like, how else are they going to fly? There probably a lot of prisons don't have. Like,
yeah, I don't know
airplanes.
If you're getting a PJ to the penitentiary.
So yeah, I guess, but he still had his chains on, right, or no?
Yeah, he had handcuffs on at least. They put the coat over it.
Yeah, so now next time I'm flying, I got to look for the marshal and the prisoner they're transporting.
Someone with a coat over their hands.
Bob Odenkirk should have just pulled a commando, knocked the U.S. Marshal out, put a jacket over him, and just escape.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah. Just hijacks the plane.
If it was Breaking Bad, that's what would have happened.
Oh, Walt would have totally gone full Con Air.
He would have gone Cyrus the Virus.
Yeah, Cyrus the Virus. Dave Chappelle just shows up.
Oh man. Yeah, I agree with Murph though. I think the plane was sort of wherever it started to like turn, and he was really thinking about it. Although at the end of the day, just take the 7 years and then go be with Kim at the end of it all. Doofus.
I don't think Kim would.
I don't think Kim would ever forgive him
You think
if he put on that performance in court. I don't think she ever would have forgave him.
Let's be real. She was an enabler for him for a very long time.
Oh, she was.
I don't know where she gets so sanctimonious about it all.
She broke bad like more than him at points in the show.
Yeah.
The Howard stuff
thing was her idea, and I just feel like it's glossed over sometimes. Like it was her idea.
And he tried to back out. He was like, it's over. Like, we can't do this anymore. And she was like, we're going through with this.
All the way
to
till
keep
the
going.
end. he was going to cancel it the day of, and she was like, she fucking turns around and was like, we're doing it.
Yeah.
So I think the difference and maybe why they treat Kim a little bit differently is because she doesn't like keep it going after shit hits the fan. She like is like, oh shit, we fucked up and this is not a good idea to do anymore. And she goes to Florida and starts hanging out with Yep Guy.
Yeah. The Yep Guy and some of the most boring coworkers in the world.
Yeah, it looks like a miserable life.
That's what's interesting about both Saul and Kim's life is they made both their lives look so bad that, like, I mean, when Saul finally gets to jail, I'm just like, seems better.
It looks like he's having a good time, and he even got sent to the bad jail too.
Yeah, but I was like, this seems better than his like Cinnabon existence, where he just seemed miserable. They almost made their like lives such a living hell.
It was kind of showing that, like, them living can be worse than death. Like, we always thought, like, oh, is Kim gonna die? Is Kim gonna die? Well, no, she's gonna have to move to Florida. So
she's gonna have to make deviled eggs with Miracle.
Pretty great here, guys. Come on.
Where did she go? Did she go to Jacksonville?
I'm surprised you two aren't in black and white.
When I was in like Palm Coast.
Yeah,
it's a beautiful area.
I don't know where they're. When after the Waterworks episode aired, I was talking with Doug, and I was talking about how like Kim's like living in hell. And I was like, Florida's great. And I'm like, that wasn't actually what I was like referring to. I was referring to like her shitty fucking existence.
They
like,
have a new Outback.
Her boyfriend, man. Yeah.
You can go to Red Lobster for your birthday.
That was such an underrated line because in 2010, when people saw a new Outback, they were all like, I'll even admit it. We were like, oh, there's a new Outback. We got to check it out. It's probably exactly the same like the 20 other fucking Outbacks I've been to.
But you hope that it's better than the current Outback that you go to.
Is the decor different there? Might be. Who knows?
Yeah.
Is the bloomin' onion more crispy here?
Yeah.
Exactly.
But it was cool that we got to see how her life did start to change after she confessed everything to Howard's wife. You finally see her like moving on a little bit and working in a non-paid job in I guess it would be a non-for-profit law firm.
Yeah, it's like a legal aid.
Exactly would that be? Legal
pro
aid.
bono work, something like that.
Okay. So it kind of shows she's starting anew again. She probably still has a ton of guilt and will make herself suffer for a while more before going full Kim Wexler again. But she's starting to go in that direction, which is cool.
She's gonna break Jimmy out of prison. She's gonna get like 5 years of atonement, come back. She's gonna break Jimmy out of prison. Headcanon.
Well, that's in El Camino. That's in El Camino 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. Blanca's Revenge.
Oh man. But yeah, so I guess where we are in the episode is Saul's on the plane heading to Albuquerque for his sentencing. And I guess that's when he starts having a realization that, oh shit, what the hell's going to happen to Kim? And so he has 2 conversations with Oakley and convinces the marshal to let them have that conversation, mainly because there's no attorney-client privilege. And so the shit that he says to his attorney could be used against him. It's pretty much why the marshal agrees to it. But the first one is, is the district attorney going to charge Kim? Which seemed like everyone's kind of the opinion no. Like she's not going to face any criminal charges, mainly because there's a lack of evidence. And I guess she's not Saul, so there's not a bunch of public hate for a Kim Wexler. And then the second question was, or Oakley adds the fact that, I think Saul was kind of like, all right, good, she's out of criminal trouble. And Oakley's like, yeah, but she's going to lose everything in civil because she handed the sworn affidavit to Hamlin's wife, and Hamlin's shopping around for attorneys at the moment. Which I thought was interesting because I didn't get the impression when Kim left that Hamlin's wife was going to go after her.
Yeah, I agree. She seemed just a little bit more like shell shocked and.
Yeah, which is people can change, I guess, their emotions as they digest.
I've also been seeing a lot of people who weren't happy with the ending be like, "Well, what Jimmy did like isn't going to affect like Kim in regards to any sort of civil cases."
That's what I was wondering. And yeah, let's talk about that. So it seems like, or the show seems to imply that the fact that Hamlin's wife is going to take Kim for everything she's worth is part of the reason why Saul hatches this plan to essentially confess to everything. And so, yeah, I was wondering that myself. Like, they seem to imply that he was trying to get her out of that civil trouble, but like, how does him confessing in a criminal court, like, how does that get her out of trouble? I myself was wondering that and couldn't connect the dots on that.
Well, if you can, I hope Henry can, because if he can't, JP and I definitely can't.
No, I was very.
I guess if I'm speculating here, the argument would be that they weren't like agents of the cartel, so any type of interaction with Lalo there was just by chance and not in any way related to any cartel business that they would have been involved in. Because really, that's kind of how it played out. I mean, I guess, again, it goes back to like doing things under duress, which I guess they would argue there that Lalo was, I mean, because she goes into the whole thing where she had to go to Fring's house afterwards and Lalo made me do this and blah, blah, blah. So like they would show that like they weren't in on it with the cartel at all. And that this was just a chance meeting, wrong place, wrong time, like what she said. So, I think if I'm just speculating, I don't know though.
Yeah, and I thought maybe it was because Saul basically took responsibility for it all, and maybe I'd have to go back and watch his like speech that he gave again to the judge or his testimony to the judge. But I mean, if he was taking sole responsibility for it and he got charged as the sole actor in all of this, then maybe that's how he was able to get her out. But I'm not really sure. There was a line, I can't remember it at the moment, but there was a line that they showed from Waterworks. Oh, they showed the line where Kim says the only one that knows, or the only one that could corroborate this for the DEA to charge me is my ex-husband, Saul Goodman. And they showed that line in the preview, and so I was wondering maybe if they intentionally did that because of this piece, but I don't know what they were getting at. Maybe the DA maybe there was less leverage against. I don't know. It wasn't. I didn't think it was particularly clear, but I didn't think it was fatal. I mean, they seem to be so good with the legal stuff. I have to imagine they thought about this. It's a pretty big part of it, and they seem to do their research on a lot of this stuff. So, yeah, I struggled to connect the dots myself, but it's not completely unbelievable. The show just didn't really make it clear how that gets Kim out of trouble.
I don't know if it does. And it's just more like, hey, if you're going down, I'm going down with you kind of thing. That's how much I care about you. I think that was more of his thought process there. Like, no, I'm not going to because like he knew before the plane that she was already owning up to all this stuff. And he's like, well, I'm not going to let her take all the fall on this. Like,
honestly, I find that more satisfying, like what you're saying.
Yeah, like I just think he's just like, if you're going down, I'm going down. And let's let the chips fall where they may.
I never liked the idea of him saving Kim in that direction because Walt already did that with Skylar, like taking the entire fall. So I thought that would be kind of repetitive to do it again on this show. So to do it somewhat the same way, but with different outcomes, then I'm cool with that.
Yeah. I think she's getting a civil lawsuit whether she likes it or not at that point.
What were they going to take, though? It didn't seem like she had much.
Exactly.
They're going to take all her Duke's mayo.
All the sprinkler brochures. that she
Do
can
you think her house was
desire.
homesteaded, Doug?
I don't know. I was thinking they probably couldn't take the house.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
She could probably kept her house and her car, and
Kim's never going to Outback Steakhouse again.
It's a damn shame.
She's not getting the big bucks for sure.
Well, she's got Yepka to pay for it all, so she's good.
That was a boyfriend, right?
Yeah, they're not married.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
a boyfriend.
Okay, so he's probably out of the picture by now.
It didn't seem too bright. Maybe he sticks around.
He's too busy watching The Amazing Race. He has no idea what's going on.
He was very into The Amazing Race.
Oh my god! I hated how he turned that chair around to talk to her. It was like so juvenile. I was
Dude, I
like, "Can you
want
just put
that
your feet
chair.
on the ground and rotate?"
I want that chair. I want to be able to swivel 360 on a comfortable chair.
That's like a classic Florida beach chair that's in like every beach home in Florida. Like if you go to an Airbnb right now and anywhere on the Florida coast, that chair's in the house.
I'm gonna have to do that.
All right, so I guess we'll take it to the courthouse scene then. I'm not missing any other major scenes prior to that, right?
I think we go right to the courthouse after the plane.
All right, so yeah, we're
Well, Kim gets that phone call.
Yes.
There's a Kim scene where Kim's in Florida talking to her besties about a Thai place that I can't remember the name of. I'm sure
It wasn't very good though.
Yeah, I'm sure the Thai was shitty. Based on that group. And then, yeah, she gets the phone call from, I forget who that woman was.
The state prosecutor, right?
Is she one of the prosecutors?
He was on the show.
But yeah, she gets the phone call, and then it's letting her know that, you know, we don't hear the conversation, but essentially imply that Saul's gonna throw her under the bus at the sentencing hearing. I think that's the scene in between the plane and the courthouse.
Got it. So yeah, we get to the courthouse. Kim's there. Marie's there along with Mrs. Gomez. Making her grand entrance.
Finally, after 6 seasons, we got it.
Into the Breaking Bad universe. She's finally here. But yeah, all the players are there, and then we finally see Saul Goodman coming out in all his glory.
What a great intro that was.
Wearing his flashy suit, which you can still tell is ridiculously flashy, despite it being black and white. They sit down. You get a nice callback to it's showtime, and then then it becomes what's going to happen next. Is he going to tell the story that he previously told, or is he going to reverse course? Is it going to be something in between? And I would say we got the in between, and then a hard reverse course, and then even more than that, once he looks back at Kim and sort of sees her, and then realizes, I'm gonna fuck it. I'm just gonna let everything out now, and then he gets into stuff that he does not even need to talk about outside of everything that happened with Heisenberg.
Yeah, I thought that scene was great. I mean, that scene was awesome. The constant look backs between you got Kim in the courtroom, and just the acting of just Odenkirk looking back at Ray Seahorn. I thought was fantastic. Where you could see a lot through the expressions, and as he's talking, and it's kind of like each time. He confesses to something and looks back at Kim and realizes, oh shit, I've got more to confess.
Yeah.
And so I think the first thing he lets off his chest is which I thought this was actually pretty interesting, and kind of reminded me of a text that Henry had sent me where he's basically yeah, I got that hood thrown over my head, and I was super scared at the time. And then he's but then that passed, and I realized there was a shit ton of money to make. And he's Walter White couldn't do anything if I wasn't there. He's Walter White would have been dead or in jail within a month. He's I kept this enterprise running. And so I thought that was really interesting. And I guess it's been applied throughout parts of this season, is that at least from Saul's perspective, he's the mastermind.
He's the brains behind the operation.
Walt was just some schmuck that could cook meth.
Walt and Jesse were
It was
idiots.
kind of a retcon, wasn't it? It was just kind of like, go ahead.
I can see how you can look at it in both perspectives. Because, I mean, Walt and Jesse were fucking dumbasses. Still at the end of season 2. And the only reason that Walt's enterprise grows as big as it eventually does is by working with Fring. And the only reason he works with Fring is because of Saul. So there is some truth to it. But yeah, and then obviously if you're looking at it from Walt's perspective, Walt's like, I'm the genius behind everything. Like I was the mastermind. Saul was working for me. So I wouldn't say it was necessarily a retcon, but looking at it from another character's POV.
Yeah, I took it as everyone's kind of the hero of their own story, and so
yeah, exactly.
The truth is probably like somewhere in the middle, but
which it definitely is, because Saul was terrified of Walt by the end of it, so he was telling some truths, but he was also telling some bullshit because he was essentially Walt's hostage by the end of the show. I mean, it wasn't until Granite State when Walt's like coughing up a lung that he finally is like, all right, I can like get away from this psycho. Because he wanted to way earlier, but Walt's like, it's not over till I say it's over. So yeah, the truth, it's a gray area. Everything wasn't black and white.
Yeah, but I thought that piece of the confession was interesting, and that's the main thing that he's being charged for. And then he confesses to the Howard Hamlin stuff. We don't have the widow Hamlin is not present. I don't think. I didn't see the camera
weird
flash.
That she wouldn't be present at that.
Well, I guess you wouldn't think that. I don't think the Hamlin stuff was on the table for what he was being charged for.
I still think she would be there.
Maybe she was busy.
But
the actress.
She was. Yeah, that's true. She was looking for a new lawyer. Good point.
Yeah. And then I think his final, and like kind of when he looked back at Kim, and I don't know. To me, I mean, you can get a lot from those stares, but it seemed like, the main thing and kind of what's been driving this all is, I guess, like his original sin on the show, or his original big sin on the show, which is causing Chuck to lose his malpractice insurance, which eventually leads to his brother's suicide. And kind of ties in, for me at least, nicely the whole time machine flashback piece of it, where he kind of regrets, his big regret is kind of setting that Chuck's death in motion and going down the path of Saul Goodman. And then once he confesses to it all, the judge calls him Saul Goodman, and he corrects her and says that his name is James McGill.
Love that.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good moment, and just kind of drove home the fact that he's Jimmy again, which
hey,
nice
Jimmy McGill pop toy. So
did you guys catch with the little callback to chicanery when he mentions his brother in the courtroom and then it flashes the exit sign? That was the one thing they couldn't turn off in chicanery at the bar meeting, where Chuck just goes crazy there.
Yeah, when Jimmy plants a cell phone in his pocket. I didn't put the two and two together. I read about it afterwards. I need to go back and watch the show as a whole again now that it's over.
Yeah, I do too. I didn't put that together. That's a good call out. But I did notice they really drove up the noise from the electric sign when they were talking about Jimmy and like flash the exit sign. So it felt like a true, kind of callback to Chuck and Chuck's condition.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that guy should have been practicing law anyway.
Yeah, he should not have been practicing law.
That seemed like a serious mental condition.
You'd think like the neighbor who saw him like running to get his mail or whatever, or his paper with the fucking electromagnetic thing on top of him would be like, this guy shouldn't be doing what he's doing. You might want to fire him.
His other partners and everything like probably had an ethical obligation to say like this guy probably isn't fit to practice law, but he was a named partner, so
yeah, Hamlin looked up to him.
Yeah, so they just kind of they made these like crazy
concessions.
They bent over backward. Yeah, they bent over backwards to deal with like Chuck's illness.
It was nuts. It was like how much money did this guy bring into the firm where they're like literally doing all of his grocery shopping just on this like extended sabbatical? It was nuts.
Yeah, then when he came in, didn't they like kill the power to the entire?
Oh, remember they collected everybody's phones and stuff.
Yeah,
I was just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, and like you'd think like the people that work there would be like, this is fucking ridiculous. Like, is this really where I want to make my name? Working for the guy who's clearly lost his marbles.
My boss is literally wrapped in aluminum foil in his office, and he wants me to do this motion by end of day.
Fuck this.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, then we find out 86 years in jail. So he went from 7.5 to 86.
Which is higher than the 30 that they were originally going to give him. So I don't know how he got up.
Really kind of screwed himself.
Yeah, I'm guessing because he didn't settle and he forced it to come out in the sentencing. They were able to throw the book at him.
Yeah.
For the 86.
Yeah, it ended up being in the middle of where they initially discussed it and all the other dealings.
Better than life plus 192.
Yeah, he'll only be, but there's good behavior. So maybe he'll get out when he's 110 years old.
Yeah, and knowing Jimmy, he's going to live. He's going to live to be 110.
Jimmy's 50. He's kind of a cockroach. Maybe he'll be one of the longest living people out there.
I wouldn't be shocked.
But yeah, then we got two more scenes. We have the scene on the bus, which we mentioned earlier, where you kind of see, you got the Better Call Saul chant. He's a hero.
Yeah, he's basically like, I'm king of this place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of,
like, they're going to love the bread I'm going to make them.
Wait till they get a load of Gene.
Yeah, wait till they see what Gene's got up his sleeve in the kitchen.
I did not expect that though. I did not expect I was like, oh shit, he's gonna get fucked up in jail, and then everyone's like, Saul Goodman, like you're the guy that gets everyone out of jail. Which I guess like
it makes sense. I mean, based on his I was gonna say based on his profession, but the fact that he was like a defense attorney, and for all like lower class citizens or low, I don't know, you guys are the
criminals.
Guys. Yeah,
isn't that like who we represented?
Yeah,
for the criminals, and not exactly blue collar criminals.
Didn't most of his clients go to jail, but they went to jail for like very short times? Like he would get them extremely reduced sentences. So then like his name's going to be bouncing around in prisons, and then it kind of makes sense that it's gonna make its way around that sort of.
He was good at his job. He was always good at his job. He was a damn good lawyer, whether he was Jimmy McGill or Saul Goodman.
Yeah, he's a bullshitter.
What do you think of
Hustle?
Yep.
What was that?
Charlie Hustle.
Yeah.
As Howard Hamlin affectionately called him before Jimmy ruined his life in response. But what do you guys think of the final scene with Jimmy and Kim, where Kim uses her
New Mexico
bar card or something?
Yeah, which she said didn't expire, and I was like, that can't be right.
Oh, she said it didn't. She said it didn't have an expiration date on it.
Yeah, she said it didn't have an expiration date. So I was like, let me see if that's accurate, because I was like, that doesn't sound right. They want your dues. Like they're gonna make you pay every year to keep it.
Maybe it was accurate in 2000 and whatever when she got it.
It's different now in New Mexico.
Well, so I checked that, and it wasn't. Of course, it expires like any other bar ID would expire. But I was like, maybe she was just joking, or she was just kind of, and like she really did keep up with it. Because that's an easy, like, I Googled it and found it in 5 seconds that your bar ID would expire. She wouldn't be barred in New Mexico anymore, but maybe she was paying her dues and that was just kind of like a joke that she was saying. I don't know. That's how I took it. But yeah, regardless, you're right, Murph. She uses it to visit Jimmy as, I guess, his attorney.
Yeah, but while they're in there,
meant like my bar card doesn't have an expiration date on it, so these guys still think I'm a lawyer.
Yeah,
so I can get in here.
That's how I had. Yeah.
Okay. See,
that would make more sense.
This is why we do the podcast, right?
She's still grifting.
we're figuring out the minute details that nobody else is talking to, only on Live Breathe Film.
That's a really good catch. I didn't think about that, but yeah,
I
you're
didn't
right.
figure it out till JP was like, I didn't take it that way, and I was like, wait a minute, did I take it that way?
Yeah, if they didn't print it on the card, then they would think she's still an attorney.
Yep.
Damn it.
So yeah, Kim visits.
I was like, why did I do all that research today? I was 4 hours wasted.
He's like, I'm barred in the state of New Mexico now. What the fuck?
I'm sitting
I was
for
on
the
the
bar
floor.
exam next month now. Damn it.
I was on the phone with the New Mexico bar all afternoon.
Yeah, it was tough explaining to your boss why you needed to give them a call, but
Yeah, I was just like, I need to understand this line in Better Call Saul.
Sir, you're the 8th person that's called today about this very same thing.
Did we like the fire being in color on the cigarette lighter and the cigarette?
I didn't even notice that.
I kind of like the one. I like the one in the previous episode where the Better Call Saul commercial.
Oh, I
was
love
lit.
that one.
That one.
On the
I would have
reflection.
liked if that was the only one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I took that to mean like there's still like a fire between them, like they still love each other, and like it's always going to be there between them.
Definitely seemed like it.
Yeah, I mean, it was such a callback to the series premiere with the two of them like smoking and going back and forth in the HSGM parking lot or garage.
That was such a good. I love the like shot of that. I thought that was like such an awesomely shot scene of them just like hanging out, just like sharing the cigarette. I just thought that was like a really cool moment.
Did you guys want some more dialogue between them? I was like, oh man, like I hope the show. Like I don't want the show to end. Like how many more minutes do we have?
Yeah, I did. I paused it too. I took a look. No, I'm happy they just looked at each other and then passed. I still think she's going to break him out of jail. I was half expecting like a prison key inside that cigarette, like the hammer inside the cake.
She does get one last look at him when she's leaving the prison and he's on the basketball court. Jimmy McGill gonna kill it.
Always hooping.
Always be hooping. He gives the finger guns to Kim, and Kim does not return them. Did you take anything from that?
Yeah, I don't think she's coming back.
I think it was more like, hey, it was fun, right? You know, kind of thing. I saw where Gould said that they actually filmed it in one take where she does give him the finger guns back, but then he thought he didn't want to do that because then they would think, oh, Kim's back to Breaking Bad again, and like.
Yeah, I read that as well. I mean, I wouldn't have taken it like that. I don't know if you guys would have.
Just like a subtle little one would have been probably enough, just like from the hip, but just like not like a full on.
Because that scene where she
nice.
does the finger guns in the season 5 finale is like so iconic. I would have hoped she did it like in return, but
I thought about it. Seasons 4, 5, and 6 all end with finger guns.
Oh.
Because he does it when he's like,
it's all good, man.
And then she does it, and then he does it.
Yeah. And seasons 4 through 6 kind of feel like their own like separate beasts from 1 through 3. Because 1 through 3 is like kind of the Chuck Jimmy story more so than, and the cartel being a much less like part of the show than in 4 through 6. I mean, you don't even get Lalo until season 4. Kind of turns more into like a Breaking Bad / Better Call Saul type show in that second half. But yeah, that's a good point about the finger guns being in the last season.
I'd watch a Lalo prequel series tomorrow.
Oh
yeah. 1000%.
Yep.
Could
That
never
was
get
such a good
Lalo.
character.
No, he could have gone the whole way. He could have been in Omaha with Gene, ripping off department stores with them. I'm like, this works.
They're both working at Cinnabon, just like hanging out.
Seriously, it would have worked.
I mean, Lalo loves cooking. He would have had a blast just
Mm-hmm.
whipping up those Cinnabons.
He would have had a problem not killing people, though. He would definitely have to kill a few people on occasion.
Well,
Just
I guess
scratch that itch.
this would be a good point to start talking about the season as a whole, because there's a hell of a lot that happened in this season that had nothing to do with the finale. I mean, we didn't get any Gus in the finale. Obviously, we 3 characters that died we didn't get, or we got one scene, or no, 3 characters that died that we didn't get any in Nacho, Lalo, and Howard. Mike only had his 1 flashback. So most of the players had nothing to do with the end game of Better Call Saul, or the fact that they died had a little bit to do with it. But what did you think of the season as a whole? Did you like the way it broke up into kind of 2 different stories?
It was kind of very disjointed, but yeah, like you said, there's a very hard line between the first half of the season and the second half of the season, and like they could honestly have been released a year and a half apart, and it probably would have felt more natural than just like what would we have, like a 4-month break or something like that.
Like 2 months.
It was a good
2 months.
Good 2 months, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was good because it definitely like put a bow on the old stuff and then went to like, you know, full bore into the flash forwards, but it was a little bit disjointed for me.
I agree with that. I mean, I'll be honest, the first 3 episodes of the season were such an adrenaline rush. And then like until Howard dies, I feel like it was kind of like in kind of a slow motion kind of speed. Like we watched every excruciating detail of the Howard heist and the Howard grift. And I was like, okay, this is fun, but I think we could have wrapped this up a little bit early. I really think this last season was like a microcosm of what Murph was just saying, of like the whole show. Like first half of this entire series is like Chuck, Jimmy going back and forth, kind of playing their cat and mouse game. 4 through 6 is cartel stuff, Breaking Bad stuff. So, I mean, I agree with the disjointed part. I definitely think it was like that. I think these last 6 were great. Episodes 4 through 6, pretty slow for me. But other than that, great season. I still think season 5 is the best, but great season.
The Howard capers thing, I didn't care about it after a certain point. I was like, why is this still going on? I don't get it half the time. Why are they figuring out mustaches for half a freaking episode? It just felt a little drawn out. I had forgotten about that.
Yeah, but what Henry said, like the beginning of the season went off like so quickly, like a rocket, which was not Better Call Saul like. And then it went back to the slow pace of Better Call Saul. And then they're like, fuck it, we're going crazy again. And they did the climax of the show, like in what, episode 8, essentially. And then it just turns into the Gene show for the final 4 episodes. So it was an interesting way of going about it. I also was totally expecting like a Saul like type of episode after they showed him turn into Saul at the end of episode 8 or episode 9? Episode 9. And then we turn on the TV the following week and we're suddenly in black and white. I thought that was pretty shocking. Yeah. And then they would just have some flashbacks in those last 4 episodes to Saul related stuff.
Even like half an episode of a day in the life of Saul Goodman, like either peak Breaking Bad or like right before it, would have been great. Just to see
would have been a lot of fun.
Circus that was going on.
Yeah, I think it was Vince Gilligan said last week that, hey, like if you want to get more Saul, like you have 60-something episodes of Breaking Bad to watch. Like if you haven't watched it yet, like this is the show about Jimmy McGill.
Yeah, I figured that's probably what they were thinking, is like, we gave you Saul during the Breaking Bad time period, and this is a prequel up until the last few episodes, which I guess is kind of felt more like an epilogue.
Yeah.
The finale was the Howard Hamlin stuff coming to an end. And to me, that was the end of like the prequel, and we see him like basically become Saul, and they're like, we brought you from Jimmy to Saul like we promised, and now we're going to give you an epilogue where we take Saul that you know from Breaking Bad and bring back to Jimmy is kind of, which I thought was neat. I think probably the whole season could have been condensed. I think there were parts we probably didn't need in both the epilogue and the heist. But I like the slower pace. Game of Thrones got me used to nothing very little happening in episodes, and so I'm good with slow pace stuff. I watched a season with Game of Thrones of people just walking around trying to find their way places, so it didn't seem overly slow to me.
I would have been happy with the Gene episodes being a little longer and being like its own season, and then like a season ender being when Kim leaves Jimmy.
Yeah,
because like we got more of the Gene than I was expecting.
Yeah.
But I still think they could have done even more with him. But ultimately, I was very happy with how the prequel story ended. I think I was more happy with how the prequel story ended than the final 4 episodes. Just because that's what we've been invested in for like the majority of the show, has been all these characters. And really everything just came to a head in between Howard getting executed, Gus killing Lalo, and then Kim breaking up with Jimmy. I think that run was the highlight of the season for me.
Yeah, the Howard getting killed was like by far the most like take my breath away moment of that entire. That was so brutal to watch.
Yeah, that was a great episode. To me, I don't know. I really like that finale. This finale. It's so hard for my expectations are probably a little lower when it comes to the last episode of a series, just because it's hard to nail or stick the landing. And so, I was just so happy that in my mind they stuck it, and that it had a satisfying ending. Because I really wanted to see redemption for the Kim and Saul characters, and I kind of felt like I got it. So, I was really happy with the way it ended, and so to me, like the last episode is probably one of the highlights for me in this season, just because I got to see them stick the landing, at least for me.
Yeah, no, I think. Do we all agree they stuck the landing?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, So yes, we're all in agreement on that.
I mean, where else could you have gone with it? I mean, if you're really thinking about it, where else? I mean, because I think if he'd gotten off scot-free or just pulled another grift to get out of it, and he's still wandering around, I think people would have been, kind of pissed off at this point. But I guess I could have seen them doing that. But I like this. I think this was always a deeper show than Breaking Bad. It was always deeper, more thoughtful. Like Doug said earlier at the beginning, like this was definitely a character study of someone, and like someone just like the de-evolution of a person. And I really think they showed that even through all this bad stuff, him and Kim, they can like redeem themselves and atone for everything they've done. And I always thought it was interesting, in the first episode of the show, Jimmy walks into HHM in the boardroom and starts quoting Network, the movie Network.
Yeah.
And then he screams at Howard, "You will atone." And I always stuck with me, because like I always just felt like that was like some kind of signal. I mean, they always say when they ask, like, "Did you plan this out?" They're like, "We really did. It just kind of fell into our lap."
We do everything on the fly.
I'm like, bullshit. Come on, man. You guys have like a hidden outline. We're like, we're gonna hit this on season 1, and then it'll come back in season 5. But I just thought that was a cool callback as well.
Yep.
All right. So we all enjoyed the season. We all enjoyed the finale.
We all kind of called it too. I mean, that text like a couple days ago when we were figuring out, we all kind of were like, he's probably just going to go to jail.
And I think we all wanted him to like redeem himself also.
Yeah.
So like we got our prediction right, and we got what we wanted right, which is pretty awesome. And it all felt true to the show, which I think is the most important part.
I thought jail always made, and I think we all probably agreed with this, but jail made the most sense because Saul's not the type of guy that's like a Walter White that's going to go out in a blaze of glory. Like
he's not dying of cancer. Like, he's just like, fuck it. Like, I'm gonna do.
He's not gonna like have a shootout with the cops. He's gonna be like, all right, you got me, guys, and like, I mean, his lack of action hero on the run. I mean, that was pretty evident with how horrible his getaway was. I mean,
it's pretty bad.
I think he picks up a gun once on both shows, and Jesse immediately beats the shit out of him. It's like he's not a tough guy. He doesn't like confrontations. Like everyone bullies him on like both shows. Howard beats the shit out of him when they're boxing. He's not someone that does very well with physical confrontation. So yeah, it wouldn't have made sense if he was going out in a blaze of glory.
Yeah, when he was in that dumpster trying to open up the burner phone too. I was like, man, I've been there so many times. I hate those plastic. I can never get them open. I take like the biggest thing of scissors and just like cut it open.
Oh yeah, and if you try and rip them, you're gonna cut through your fingers and.
Oh yeah, no, exactly.
Crazy.
Did you guys think he was gonna kill Cal Burnett?
No.
In the second to last episode,
should have.
I was worried.
I was worried.
That would have been too far for that character.
He wouldn't have been redeemable at that point. It would have been like, all right, he is officially broken.
And he would have actually murdered somebody, which he hadn't.
Exactly.
Why do you think he stopped? Why do you think he stopped there? When she says, I trusted you, what do you think went off in his head there?
I think it brought him back to his elder care clients.
Yeah.
What did you guys get?
You go ahead, Doug. No, please.
I was just going to say, I thought like he truly had a friendship kind of like had with her. And so he realized that, this is somebody that he cares about as a friend, and that he's, he got himself too caught up in the moment. He kind of pulls himself back a little bit. I think that word pulls him back, or that statement pulls him back from the heat of the moment.
Yeah, it's like Sorry.
Go ahead, JP. Sorry.
I was just saying it's just like the self-realization of that line that he is unwilling to cross, and like you get to the point where that is rock bottom, where you are almost going to kill Carol Burnett, but then you don't, and it's like that's where the redemption starts. I think is that you go as low as you can possibly go, and now it's up from there.
I thought it was just a cool scene by Carol Burnett that basically showed like she wasn't really even scared. I mean, she was scared, but she wasn't like screaming or anything like that. She like had it in her to look at him and just be like, I trusted you, and now you're going to do this to me. And I think that was kind of like something like, Jesus, what am I doing here? I've got this telephone cord wrapped around my hands. This isn't me,
There's no Nippy, you son of a bitch.
She was very upset about the lack of existence of Nippy.
Meanwhile, sorry, finish what you're saying.
I was just gonna say, I wanted to talk about that what was the name of the dog whose ashes he picked up? Was it like Buddy
Rusty.
or something?
It's my dog.
Rusty.
It's Rusty, my dog.
That was a moment where I felt like he was more likely to kill that guy than he was. Like it seemed like had that guy not fallen back asleep, like he was gonna hit him over the head with the ashes of his dead dog, which was.
Why are we all assuming that would kill him?
He picks it up and it's like really heavy.
Okay, it's really all right.
It feels like it would be one of those stupid TV tropes where you punch someone and then they fall and they like hit their head on a shelf and it snaps their neck and they die and you're like, oh.
True.
But they make a point like when he goes to lift it and he like almost like struggles at first because he doesn't realize how heavy it is, and so they like make it a point to show like this thing is heavy, and then like when he's thinking about hitting like that guy over the head, I don't know what the hell is going through his head, but that was the first point where I was like, oh, please don't do this.
Yeah,
but it was it also sets up that he could murder Carol Burnett's character because he's already contemplated murdering somebody else.
But I was gonna say I like the contrast between Jean and Walt, and the fact that like when she like when Marion talks on the life alert, like revealing that it's Saul Goodman who is on the lam and everything like that. It's similar to like when Flynn calls the cops in Ozymandias and is like, my dad's like got whatever, gonna kill my mom or whatever, and then Walt's reaction is to fucking kidnap a baby versus Gene, who's just like so upset about the entire situation and just leaves.
How Vince Gilligan could have been a part of an episode like Ozymandias and then say that the Saul finale was a hard stopper, I'll never. I'm like, I think you need to double check what you've done before. Because Ozymandias to me is like literally just like so intense from like start to finish. And I think it's the best episode of the show, one of at least. It's so intense and it's so well done. That I mean, down to even remember the fight with him and Skylar with the knife?
Oh, it's brutal.
When they're wrestling, like you're just so uncomfortable watching.
It feels like real, like it. Yeah.
Oh my god.
But yeah, Walter White, piece of shit.
Oh god, the worst.
He would have killed Walter White. Would have killed Carol Burnett before she called anybody.
Oh yeah,
no question.
Walter White loves killing people. It's like
he would have strangled the shit out of her.
Yeah, it's like obvious from the first season that Walt really gets a taste for murder. He enjoys doing that.
Any other final season thoughts? Then we've got some overall thoughts, and then we'll do our final piece. Will be about Better Call Saul versus Breaking Bad.
I guess a moment that stuck out to me that I'd be interested in your guys' thoughts is Mike's confrontation with Nacho's dad.
I guess fantastic scene.
That was such a good scene where Mike lets Nacho's dad know that they're going to get revenge on the people that killed Nacho. And his dad's like...
doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, he's like, revenge just leads to more revenge. And like, this is... You people are... I just love that interaction where Mike thinks he's going to give something that's satisfying to his father, and his father's like, I don't care about this revenge. Like,
yeah,
my son's dead. Like,
yeah,
it's kind of fucked up for Mike too, because it almost feels like he's trying to get closure as well, and he's denied that, and it's completely. Just, yeah, I'm always rooting for Mike. You know,
Mike always loses his like son or like his like son-like figures, whether it's like his actual son and they discuss or who we see in that one episode 5-0. And then Nacho is kind of like a son figure to him. Jesse is on Breaking Bad. Granted, he doesn't lose Jesse, but Jesse goes through hell. Yeah. But yeah, that
seems just kind of showed the value systems of everyone, like the civilians versus these cartel guys and everything else, and what they feel is justice. And it kind of reminded me too. I mean, not to keep talking about, but like Granite State too. I always remember that phone call with Walt and Flynn at the end. When like he's like telling him like, okay, does your friend still live at so and so address? Because I'm going to send you money. Because like the entire time Walt thought this was all about money and making sure his family had money to survive. And like you can just tell like Flynn doesn't give a shit about the money after everything that's happened. He's just like, are you kidding me? And like Walt has that great line where he's like, this can't all be for nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think it's just big difference in the values.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, Nacho, since you brought up Nacho's dad, Nacho's swan song was fantastic. Yeah. Getting to go lay into the entire Salamanca family, kind of lay into Gus as well while still doing what Gus wanted so his father wouldn't get killed. Beautiful ending for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought the Nacho stuff was very reminiscent of how Hank goes, in that like the character's dead already, and you're just waiting for it to play out where they die. Obviously, the Hank stuff stuff's pretty heart pounding in the moment. You get that whole scene where Hank tells Walt that he's already dead, and Walt's just stupid to see it. Yeah. But it felt like that with Nacho, where you were just like waiting for the character to die because there was no path to escape. It was like it was over for him, and especially once they threatened his dad, you knew Nacho's not gonna let his dad get killed over any of this.
Yeah. And then one last one, since we talked about how much we love Lalo, do we find his ending to be satisfying?
No, that was terrible.
Yeah. How are you gonna get shot by Gus Fring? How are you gonna get shot by Gus Fring? That's in
the dark. In the dark.
Gus Fring's
While Gus was weakened.
Yeah, and Gus is like, I mean, Gus is a really cold guy, but he's kind of a sissy. Like his only grand scheme was to put a gun on the excavator.
Better Call Saul did Gus Fring no favors, in my opinion.
It didn't. No.
He was fucking awesome on Breaking Bad. He was
a little scared of everything
by a lot of people on Better Call Saul.
Yeah. And he was like,
my thing with the Lalo scene is like it reminded me of like one of those like old timey movies where like the bad guy's just taking too long to do what he needs to do to get rid of the hero, and it's like just do it already. What are you doing?
Yeah,
and,
don't
like,
monologue.
So played out.
Fucking kill him.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, I think I agree with you guys. I think it was a little goofy. I did think it was kind of fun that they had Lalo as like he was dying, smile basically.
That was good.
Kind of like with Gus where he like fixes his tie when he dies. Like it was kind of like their like signature death where like Lalo's the happy Salamanca guy that's always like jovial and joking around and everything, and so he dies with a smile on his face, even though probably in real life someone wouldn't die like that.
No, and I'm pretty sure someone's not fixing their tie when half their face is missing and their brain is. That was a little cartoony in the original Breaking Bad. I'd be like, it kind of took me out a little bit. Like, this is not real at all.
I told Doug I really wanted to see in this that like I wanted another scene with Lalo and Walt where Lalo's helping him put the bomb on Hector's wheelchair. Like I just would have loved
that would have been funny. Yeah,
it's like fuck that old guy.
Yeah, and just like that's how he's gonna get Fring.
Yeah, the axe fight when Lalo goes to Germany, and that was brutal. Yeah, Lalo
I do not like how is Lalo getting to Germany? I know he's got money, but like how is he getting there?
I don't know. He's got a lot of money.
Private jet, I guess.
I guess.
Yeah, I'm assuming he can't fly.
Yeah, he might be able to.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he can get an ID. I don't know. TSA is pretty strict though.
TSA in some places is pretty strict, but I don't know. He's definitely flying first class. I don't think you really have to go through TSA when you're flying first class.
He's flying out of Mexico too, and maybe it's not as strict.
True. Yeah, they probably just let him right on.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I know who you are. Right this way, crazy guy.
I mean, he's so charismatic. He can figure out a way.
Oh yeah.
Such a good character though, that Lalo character. I know. I guess if you guys saw that After Saul or whatever the hell that show is called, they were talking about how Vince Gilligan didn't want to do Lalo.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm like,
really?
Are you crazy?
Yeah, he didn't want to do Lalo, and Gould is the one that convinced him because they were like, we said Lalo in Breaking Bad, and Gilligan's like, who cares? Like, it was a one-off line. But then they had the idea, what if, the Salamancas are so serious? What if we made a Salamanca that's, like, not so serious?
That just loves life.
Yeah, that just loves life. And what a great character that was. And Tony Dalton just crushes it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, him and... Let's talk about our overall thoughts, favorite moments, episodes, plot lines, characters. Like, we're talking about Lalo. I think we probably all agree Lalo and Kim are the two greatest creations that have come out of Better Call Saul.
Yeah, I think Nacho's a close third, honestly. I love Nacho. Just from the get-go, I was like just always rooting for him. He's a good dude.
I never thought he got developed as much as he could have, though.
Yeah.
Like, I think
he's barely in season 2.
I feel like they had like more stuff for him to do, and then they just like changed directions. Yeah. And he kind of fell by the wayside for a while. Because like in the beginning of the show, he was doing shit with Jimmy. When was the last time they ever interacted?
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
Yeah, not for a while. It's odd that he would remember him when, yeah. Especially with all the shit that happens with Lalo. Like, why is Nacho in the same breath?
They had that encounter in season 1 where they go out to the desert with Tuco.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess maybe that's how he remembers Jimmy so much.
Fucking Tuco.
Tuco is, yeah.
What other characters do you think stood out to you guys?
outside of Kim and Lala.
Seems like we got a lot of Chuck fans here.
I like Chuck.
I love Chuck.
The
Love Chuck.
internet doesn't love Chuck.
I'm not a big fan of Chuck.
In the early seasons of the show, people were like, why isn't this like Breaking Bad? But instead we're getting this fucking like fucking brother, and all the drama between them. But
yeah,
Chuck kind of annoyed me.
He does. He's annoying at times because of who his character is and how he's associated with Jimmy at times. But that was their relationship. And overall, I just thought Chuck was a fun character. I liked the performance. And so I was happy to see him return in the way he did in the final episode, just because I wanted to see I wanted to see the actor again. I want to see the character. But yeah, I mean, there's points where you hate Chuck, but I mean, I think you're supposed to hate him because he's shitty to Jimmy, and I mean, a lot of these supporting characters, like we talked about how Kim kind of drives Jimmy to do some of the bad things. I mean, Chuck's drives Jimmy to do shitty things too. I mean, these people around him aren't like being supportive in the way I think that Jimmy would need it to succeed. They kind of drive him to bad places.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what Chuck was. But I just like the actor and the performance so much that I like the character, but I hated him, but because the story required me to hate him.
Yeah, he was good foil for Jimmy, and largely responsible for how he became. I
also loved how ridiculous his like house setup was, and like his condition was just so fun that like
still one of my favorite moments of the entire show is that scene where he's got the blanket on and he's running across the street, and it's like the most dramatic scene in the world, and then it shows like how it actually looks to somebody else.
To a normal person. Yeah.
That was fucking hilarious.
Yeah. I like where Howard went as a character, just from being just a really unlikable human being. Mm-hmm. But this season, I mean, maybe a little bit of the season prior, you really start to see the cracks in his whole like being an asshole thing, and I really felt bad for him up until that point where he dies. I was just like really starting to feel bad for Howard, because it's got to be annoying having a Jimmy follow you around constantly and fuck with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you there. I totally agree.
Yeah.
They did a great job developing that and then really making you hate him and then really making you feel sorry for him. I mean, that scene it was like 5 or 6 of this season where he's making the coffee for his wife and he does like that beautiful art on the coffee and she just puts it into her travel mug. I'm just like, Jesus.
That was
break.
Yeah, exactly. That was such a kick in the stomach. Oh, I felt so bad for him. He was doing everything to try and turn his life around, and he had that little thorn in his side.
Like, he goes to see a therapist. Meanwhile, while he's in the therapist's office, he's getting his car stolen. And one of his all-time ridiculous things is him dressing up as Howard and having the ridiculous spray tan.
And then when he moves the sign instead of...
Oh, yeah. It's so ridiculous.
Good. So good. Some other favorite moments of mine. Henry, you brought it up earlier. The scene with Chuck being on the stand, and the cell phone being planted in him, and kind of just being like outed to everyone as just like mentally ill. That scene was fantastic. That might have been
that's my favorite episode.
That might have been the episode where I realized like how great it was. Like, I loved it, but I was like, damn, this is like as good as Breaking Bad. And then I think my all-time favorite moment of the show is the first scene in the condo with Lalo, Kim, and Jimmy. That like 10-minute scene where he's having him repeat the story from the previous episode of Bagman.
Yeah, that was so intense.
Any highlights from you guys that you want to cover?
I like the film crew.
Yeah, they were always good. They were always good.
I never expected them to come back as many times as they did.
Oh, they found ways, man. I couldn't believe it too. I'm like, man, they keep working these guys in.
Yeah.
This is a really underrated episode. I love season 2, episode 1, where they do their first con together of the guy at the hotel bar. I don't know why I like that episode so much. I just think
the tequila con.
Yeah, and they're just there. They're doing it, and then it's like a cool way to start the season because you're coming off season 1, and I don't know about you guys, but when I watched season 1 the first time, I was like, man, I really thought we were gonna do some like Breaking Bad stuff, and like I didn't realize what kind of show it was. And then you watch season 2, and then they throw kind of Kim in it, and Kim will dip her toe in like the bad pool, and you're like, oh, okay, this is pretty cool.
Yeah,
one of my favorite ones. And then also, I mean, everything about Bagman was great too.
I love Bagman. That's probably one of my favorites, if not my favorite episode. That was filmed so well. I mean, it's a Vince Gilligan episode, right?
Yeah.
I love Gilligan's style, which is, become
Very
the style,
cinematic.
I guess, of this universe. But yeah, that episode of just Saul just like out in the desert, guys, just hanging out with Mike, and them having that like experience was just, it was cool. And also had those moments where he has to drink his own piss, which I was glad they brought it back when they flashed back to Bagman. He's like walking with his bottle of piss
In a Davis and Maine cup too, which I thought was a cool callback too.
I didn't notice that. That's pretty cool though. But
The
yeah,
show-
go ahead.
I was just gonna say to what Henry said before about like season 1, like thinking it was gonna be more like Breaking Bad. The show really didn't do itself any favors though by putting in Tuco in like the end of the first episode, like in the second episode. Like right then you're like, oh shit, things are about to get crazy, and then it goes in the completely different direction. It has Colin Robinson from What We Do in the Shadows as like a big player on the show with his obsession with sports cards and just random goofy characters throughout a lot of season 1, like the Kettlemans, before eventually pivoting into what it became.
I mean, like I was watching season 1, and he's talking about elder law. I'm like, okay, he's talking about elder law, but there's still like 20 minutes left of this episode. He's probably gonna turn to Saul at the end of this episode or something.
Yeah,
And like it just never came. It was the biggest slow play I've ever seen, and I don't know how they did it, but they pulled it off. They sucked me in.
yeah. And at the end of season 1, they also make it seem like, all right, this is the point, he's going to become Saul. And then the beginning of the premiere of season 2 is like, nope. But they liked writing Jimmy McGill as much as they did, thank God, because the show ended up being way better than it likely would have been had it been a Saul Goodman-esque show. So we got lucky. But Doug, what were you going to say? You had something else to add about Bagman, I think.
I don't know. I liked Bagman. That's the gist of what I was saying about Bagman.
So that's your favorite episode, probably.
Probably that's one of the ones that I watched and I was just like, this is amazing. That was my favorite episode going into this last season, and it probably remains my favorite.
Okay. All right.
I'm trying to think what the worst episode was.
Probably, yeah, I don't know. Probably something early in the show.
Probably was something in season 1 about elder law.
Yeah. Another favorite moment of mine too was when Jimmy screws over the one old woman he has everyone like basically turn against her. I was like, oh man, like you're such an asshole, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Obviously he did way worse stuff on Breaking Bad, but still like that one hurt the most.
It's personal,
Yeah. All right. If nothing else, as far as favorite moments, episodes, etc., I guess we can come to the big question in Better Call Saul. Better Call Saul or Breaking Bad? Which is it going to be after this point? Is there one you prefer? One you think is better?
I think I'm going with Saul. I think Breaking Bad's a little too intense for me.
Same.
Little too intense.
When I was watching it, when it was happening, Breaking Bad was awesome, and I loved it, and it was great. And then I just like Saul was just one of these things where like they took a totally different view from Breaking Bad, and like made you really think and really. I think I just appreciated that they took so much time with this character to really develop it and really. I mean, I felt like when we got to the end, it's like we all had earned it, and it was like such a good feeling. I feel like it was just like you come this far and you watch this guy develop and down to like the breakup scene with Kim, and then you finally see him as Saul. It was like almost like this cathartic feeling of just like, wow, we finally got here. And they did it so quick too. It wasn't like a build up to like a whole episode where like he's finally Saul. It was just like, oh yeah, by the way, he's Saul now. And like kind of like letting you know, like, remember, this show wasn't about Saul, it was about Jimmy this entire time. And that was cool.
Yeah, I think I'm on the Saul, Better Call Saul being better than Breaking Bad. I think they learned a lot from Breaking Bad that they applied to Saul. I think they figured out how to make more compelling and more fleshed out supporting characters.
Definitely good.
I think the supporting cast or the supporting characters were written a lot better. Whereas Breaking Bad, it seemed like they focus, it's Walt and Jesse, and then Skyler's kind of like a garbage character in my opinion, and a lot of the rest of the supporting cast wasn't that great. Although I loved Hank. Hank's a great character. And then I would say Saul ended stronger. I thought Saul stuck the landing better than Breaking Bad did for me. I found the the New Hampshire Granite State stuff, some of it kind of didn't work for me. It meandered a bit. I didn't find it as satisfying of an end for Walter White as I did. Like I was kind of buzzing when Better Call Saul ended, just because I was so happy in the way that they stuck the landing. So I guess with that, I would say, at least for now, Better Call Saul is better. I haven't watched Breaking Bad again, so in a while, so it could change. But at the moment, I would say Better Call Saul is the stronger show.
I don't think the Breaking Bad finale has aged very well. I watched it recently, and I was like, really? A machine gun in the trunk? Like, this is what ended up happening? And he just, like, I don't know. It seemed kind of like a little too rushed. Like,
they tried to resolve way too many things in one episode.
Yes.
And, like, believability wasn't exactly there.
Like great point, because like remember when after all the Nazis are dead, he's like walking out of the building and then he gets the phone call from Lydia and he's like, oh, by the way, enjoying the ricin I'm giving you? It's like, wow, like, check it off the list. We got everything now.
Now I can die.
Yeah.
Throw on another song that references blue stuff in it, and I'll go into the afterworld.
We did it.
Yeah, what do you think, Murph?
It's tough. I think Better Call Saul is the better show, the harder show to make. Breaking Bad puts so many of the things in place for this show to like exist that it's hard not to like give points to it for that reason. Also, Breaking Bad is just such an adrenaline rush. Like, I would probably rather go back and watch Breaking Bad than Better Call Saul, just for that reason alone. You can just fly through it.
Yeah.
But Better Call Saul, I think, is more accomplished in many different ways. It's the best prequel that's ever been made in any medium. I don't think we're ever going to see something like it again. While Breaking Bad, there's so many imitators that kind of shows you that it's not as difficult to make as you would think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going with Breaking Bad for my favorite of the two.
I think with Breaking Bad, you can always lean back on certain things when you're making episodes. With Saul, you can't really. It's more about the character. Breaking Bad, you can just be like, oh, what are we going to do for this episode? I don't know, fucking meth stuff. And like things are going to explode and people are going to die. Like, okay, sure. And people will love it. Like they'll eat it up because it's entertaining. But with Saul, you can't just be like, I don't know, meth things right now. Like, let's do law. But that's not really a compelling episode.
Yeah, like Breaking Bad, you can throw on a million YouTube clips of like classic scenes, while Better Call Saul, you would want to watch the entire episode in order to fully digest it.
Yep.
So, I don't know. I'm like talking myself into Better Call Saul right now.
Breaking Bad would have been an entirely different show though without Saul, though. You agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I just think we needed him to like at least bring some type of humor through all this like craziness that was happening. That you're just like, oh, okay, there is some like normal people walking around. Now, granted, he's not that normal, but
it's weird when Saul Goodman grounds your show.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, he's not a normal he's a cartoon character.
He is a
Yeah.
But he's a more believable cartoon character.
Bob Odenkirk said he was like so easy to play because he was just so one note, and like Jimmy was difficult to play because he's a complex character.
Yep.
But man, I mean, how lucky are we? Like Odenkirk was only supposed to be on a few episodes of Breaking Bad, and instead he ends up being on the rest of the run and gets this amazing show.
Well deserved too.
And then I was going to just say Odenkirk misses one episode because he has to film a How I Met Your Mother guest spot, and we get Mike.
Oh, wow.
That's the only reason why Jonathan Banks joined the show.
There.
Wow,
that's crazy.
Because Saul was supposed to go to Jesse's apartment, right? When Jane dies?
Yep.
Interesting.
Wow.
But both of them just crushed their appearances, and then they ended up being on our TV screens for the next 12 years.
Yep. Mike Ehrmantraut prequel show when?
A prequel to the prequel? While he's still getting,
with a cane.
Still getting older.
I want him to be like a beat cop or something like that, because wasn't he a cop in Philadelphia? So like Mike Ehrmantraut, the beat cop, he's got like a sick toupee on. It's not white, it's dark hair. It's got like it's a little messy, so you could tell he's younger.
Yeah. So this is one of the old McGill wigs from like the Jimmy flashbacks.
Oh.
I can see. Do you think they'd ever do like a Kim spinoff?
I think they're already talking themselves into doing it from all the interviews I read yesterday. Like they're all like, we're not gonna do it, but like we would love to work with this team, and like Ray already said she would do it.
Like post Florida life? Is that what we're talking about?
I guess it would have to be, right?
With like some HHM sprinkles on it, like from pre-Jimmy. Or like, what if it's like Jimmy when he's working in the mailroom? We get Jimmy back that way.
They'd have to bust out all the
bust out the wigs.
Oh yeah, and Chuck I'm scared of electricity.
Yeah,
they're just gonna keep on going back in time.
You gotta
Vince
go.
is like, just keep playing the hits. Keep playing the hits. Let's do it.
Do they ever say who the other Hamlin is?
It's Howard's dad.
Bring in Howard's dad.
Bring in him. Okay,
you got the other Hamlin.
And he'll probably become one of the best characters in the entire Breaking Bad universe.
Probably.
That's how they do it.
I had no idea they were considering a Ray.
A lot of interviewers
starring Ray.
People just keep asking them.
Kim Wexler, wow.
I don't think like it's necessarily something they really had been thinking about or anything, but people just keep on asking already.
It doesn't feel like a good idea, but a Better Call Saul spinoff didn't seem like a good idea.
Better Call Saul sounded terrible. And when they were like, "Oh, it'll be a 30-minute comedy, and he'll deal with wacky clients every episode," like it'll be like a Gilligan's Island type show. Like,
oh God!
And then it turned into this. It's crazy. All right.
I would guess that Gilligan. I don't know. It seems like Gilligan would want to leave the Breaking Bad universe at some point, but maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong.
If they come up with a good idea, I wouldn't be surprised if we see more adventures in Albuquerque.
But the other thing, which I think we all know about, as far as characters that appeared on Breaking Bad just because of crazy scenarios. I mean, Pinkman, right? Isn't Jesse Pinkman? He was supposed to die, and the writer's strike is what kept him alive. Yeah. And then the audience loved him or the viewership loved him. Someone loved him so much that they decided to keep him around. But that's why he makes it through season 1, because I think he was supposed to die.
Tuco was supposed to be on more, but then he had to do another show. Like, I guess he got signed to another show between seasons 1 and 2, so they had to get rid of him like 3 episodes into season 2. So there's been a lot of situations where they didn't have control, or they realized a situation was should become long term, like after the fact. It's like Jeffy, like you got a replacement actor because he gets another show.
Yeah.
And we don't know how much changed from Better Call Saul with Odenkirk's heart attack or that health scare he had. I'm guessing they changed stuff. It sounded like they were reworking stuff because they had more time now.
Yeah, that's true. They could have made some changes after that. I don't know if any of you guys noticed the episode where it happened. Like,
it's the Howard one, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like after Howard has died, like in point and shoot?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And you could notice it?
No, I didn't notice it.
But they said, like, because when you read the story, they said that, like, Ray was there, Tony was there, and Patrick Fabian. I'm like, well, how was Patrick? And then I remembered Patrick Fabian's dead body is in the scene on the ground the whole time. So he definitely was there. So.
That's crazy.
It's nuts. Yep.
Yeah, and you showed Murph, you showed me that picture where Odenkirk spoiled.
Yeah, like back in December.
Because he's got the blood on his hair.
Yeah.
In the photo.
Really glad people didn't put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah.
I feel like Odenkirk kind of spoiled some things on his latest press junket. Like, if you heard him in interviews, he like slipped like a little too much. He's like, "Don't worry, you're gonna see Jimmy again too." It's like, what the hell? Like, shut up.
All right. Anything else?
Thanks for letting me come on, guys. This was fun.
No, thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
It's nice to have some variety, and this was cool just to talk about one topic the entire time.
Doug, you're gonna send me my Venmo tomorrow?
What are they paying you per hour?
Yeah, what is your going rate?
I got to get my people in touch with them as well.
Yeah, seriously. We'll figure it out. Right. Let's not spoil it.
We could drive the price up, you know. Let's talk.
Do you guys think? I know we're wrapping up. Do you guys think like Emmys are in the future? I know Ray Seahorn was nominated finally.
She deserves to win, just because of how many times she's been snubbed. Same with pretty much everyone on this show.
Better Call Saul has not won one Emmy yet.
It's insane.
In any category.
That's absolutely wild.
Yeah. And I don't want them to get one like art direction either. Yeah. Like, let's get one of the big boys, you know?
Yeah. Hopefully it follows the pattern of Breaking Bad, where it actually crushed the last 2 seasons.
That's dead.
I think Bob could win for Best Actor, not this year, but next year for these last 6 episodes. Like, I thought he was that incredible. But the problem is, will everyone remember this a year from now when it's voting time?
Yeah, that is the tough thing. That's why I think it has better odds this time, because it's so fresh in everyone's mind.
Bob wasn't nominated, though, was he?
He was.
Yes, he was.
Oh, he was nominated. Okay.
I think
that would be great if they both, Bob and Ray, won.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be great if both of them did end the show one.
Yeah, it'd be great.
But I'm worried that Succession will dominate again because that's just all it
wasn't
does.
even their best season, though.
No.
It wasn't even their best season.
Emmy voters, I feel like we should be voting for these awards because we actually watch the shows. Emmy voters just pick the same thing every single year. It's so stupid.
It's the same with all of these awards.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Yeah, Saul's just been frustrating because it's gotten like no recognition, and that, I mean, it's been so good for so long, it just pisses me off. I mean, the Ray Seahorn has been like crushing it this entire time and hasn't even been nominated up until now. It's just mind-boggling.
I would say it's like not even her best season in terms of acting so far.
It's not.
It's fucking crazy. Like 3 seasons ago, she should have won and just walked away with it. But, man.
Yeah, screw the Emmys.
Yep.
All right. Well,
I'm glad she got nominated finally.
Well, that's all, folks. Thank you again for listening. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Thank you again to Henry and JP for joining us. But yeah, for 1 week only, this has been Doug, Henry, JP, and Murph at Live Breathe Film. See you again next time.